The coalition forces went to Afghanistan to defeat the terrorist group Al-Qaeda in 2001 after the 9/11 attack. But clearly today, still Al-Qaeda exists. With wearing facade as the Taliban, this terrorist group daily kills hundreds of Afghan civilians, Afghan women, and Afghan children, and our soldiers. We Afghans know the truth. We, the 38 million Afghans, know we do not represent war, terrorism, or Al-Qaeda. Our US and coalition force allies know that we stand with them and we do not support foreign terroristic groups who do not want peace. Our enemies do not want for the US to stay in Afghanistan. They know the US and NATO soldiers are the harbinger of peace for us Afghans. Mr. President, Afghanistan will be used as the base for future attacks, not only on the US soil, but these vultures that destroy the Afghan land will use it as a terrorism base to execute a greater number of disasters around the world. The United States of America, leaving Afghanistan, is not going to serve its purpose of fighting with terrorists. I ask the President Biden and the coalition force leaders, if you accomplish this object, why do you leave in the middle of the night from your largest base in Afghanistan background? Why not celebrate this victory in the daylight like how the eagle must do? If you reached your purpose, why firsthand you did not celebrate with us Afghans who worked besides the coalition forces for peace? If terrorism is eradicated, why I cannot return to my country? Why I, the Afghan girl, cannot continue my education? Why I, the Afghan woman, must sacrifice my rights? I want to address President Biden on saying that the reason US would be present in Afghanistan is unclear now. What is not clear is Afghanistan not at the risk of becoming the largest occupied land at the hands of Al-Qaeda or the ISIS? Is there no single possibility of terrorism attacks happening from my country? US came to the rescue of the Afghan nation, so foreign invaders to not plan and execute any terrorist acts like Osama bin Laden, who was captured in the Pakistan. The Afghan enemy, after getting killed by the Afghan National Army, why their bodies are sent for funeral to our neighbor country if our neighbors want peace for us? I understand my tone is quite harsh, but please excuse my tone because this is not me speaking these words, but my Afghan soul that bleeds day and night. The world tells me, the Afghan girl, to give up on hope. But till the day I die, I will not lose hope for a peaceful Afghanistan and my rights. I will not stop the fight with the terrorists, whether it takes fighting, using education, or even at the cost of becoming a migrant without a homeland to return to. I will give my everything for the peace in Afghanistan, even though I have got nothing but a voice. Mr. President, you say keeping a major number of your troops in Afghanistan is not viable, but keeping concentrated number of soldiers in Afghanistan is the only solution to eradicate terrorism. Mr. President, you say you cannot expect the ideal condition for withdrawal of troops or to expect a different result. But I want to remind you, this vicious cycle is not about sending the brave soldier to my country. This cycle happens because the world chooses the wrong side in the Afghan peace talk. For the past 20 years, Afghanistan is waiting for its new generation to lead the Afghans. As an Afghan girl, I owe my life and my education to the coalition forces, to NATO, to the US soldiers serving in Afghanistan, and to the US taxpayer money, and my Afghans who are being killed in war. I want to send this message to the political analysts in DC. I am not a waste. My country is not a black hole. With calling Afghanistan a black hole, these political advisors define the sacrifices of the US soldiers and Afghan people as of only numbers. In here, I am not going to talk about the number of Afghans killed fighting the Al-Qaeda group, the group that attacked the US soil. We are human beings who all sacrifice for one purpose only, to destroy terrorism in the world. I want President Biden to ask the SIV recommenders, who most are the US Army, is Afghanistan a black hole? To ask the US soldiers if Afghans deserve getting another chance at defeating terrorists. Mr. President, you say you will not pass the duty of staying in Afghanistan to your successor, but you will accept for your presidency to pass in history books as the term that abandoned its longest ally, Afghanistan. It will be the US presidency that caused one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. The history will record that the Afghan fall will be not the last of US concerns in the globe. It will be the beginning of a new era for terrorism and war in the world. I plead from you to stay in Afghanistan, to not let another bloodbath worse than Syria or Yemen to start. And I know the next President of the United States of America and the people of the world will remember the US, the President Biden, as someone, as the leader who stood for the justice and destroyed terrorism. I ask Vice President Kamala Harris, you are the first female Vice President of United States of America. Do you support the withdrawal of US troops despite the first victims of war will be women and children? Will the first female Vice President of the United States of America save this deed for herself in the history of the world, proving that even a woman of the highest nation cannot save one country's woman? I ask you, Vice President Kamala Harris, do we Afghan girls have to be the first war casualty? Mr. President, your commitment as the leader of the United States of America and the NATO forces is peace. The valor country of United States of America and the eagle must not yield to the vultures. Your country is the nation of example for the present and coming generations. I remember the first time I visited New York, the city known as the emblem of modernization. I saw the Statue of Liberty. Its sculptor had carved his mother as a statue holding the flame of freedom. Back then, I did not know what the flame meant, why the statue held this flame, why in Olympics the nations handed over to each other. But now I know the flame means, oh women of the world, you are the harbingers of peace and liberation in the world. If the world one day abandons you, take that flame and burn yourself before others incarcerate you in the fire of violence and war. I know we Afghans proved to be inadequate towards what the world expected us to become in terms of progress and development during the past 20 years. But as a weak country, surrounded by two nuclear-powered enemies, and given our fight with terrorism, given the fact each family in Afghanistan has at least one person killed for the peace, we still deserve the presence of our allies in Afghanistan. We need the US Army soldiers and NATO countries. I understand the COVID pandemic also strains the nations around the globe, but this pandemic is teaching us one lesson, that if something happens in China, it is going to affect all the world. If something happens in India, its pain and suffering will vibrate through all the world. Corona teaches unity to human beings. From Corona, I learned if the war starts in Afghanistan, it won't be only in Afghanistan. It is going to spread, and no one can contain this fire. At the end, I beg from the First Lady, Jill Biden, and members of Mr. President's family, who are women, to help Afghan women and kids. My plea is from one woman to other women of power, to stop terrorism from raging, and for you to stop a bigger humanitarian crisis the world has yet to see. We, the Afghan women, are losing hope and are tired of men deciding our fate. I beg from all the female leaders of the world to rescue us from the hands of Taliban. We do not want any peace talk with terrorists. In this war, please support the right side and do not yield to a terrorist group who murders and rapes kids and women.